Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm pleased to be here. I want to thank David for inviting me to stop by this evening. I am pleased to come and engage with you a little bit about my vision and my reasons why I intend to be the next borough president of Queens. Peter, it's an open seat, as my friend and colleague Peter Malone said, who I've worked with over the last 12 years, and we've had a great working relationship. He's been a great colleague. Our children are just about the same age. We both have daughters that started college this year. We shared that angst about sending our daughters away. My son is 16, will be 16 in May. His other daughter is going to college. We have a great relationship, and we have other people that are also elected officials that are running for the seat as well. And as Peter said, you'll have an opportunity to understand us and to hear from us and to pick the person that you feel will be most. And I'm a little older than but I got involved as a young person because what's got me activated into politics was the Watergate hearings. And looking at the Watergate hearings and understanding that politics could corrupt and that there was an opportunity to use politics to the detriment of people, induced me into getting involved in government. My parents, as I said, were born and raised in Jamaica. They were big on immigration. I was always, one of the reasons why they taught me how to drive early was that I could go pick up people from JFK and bring them to New York, bring them into the city. And as you well know, bringing somebody from JFK and taking them to Brick Queens or taking them to the Bronx is culture shock, and it's a big difference to come from, sunny Jamaica, West Indies to go to the Bronx. So they wanted me to pick up the person and give them the quick acclimation and the understanding of what living in New York would be. And because they were always involved in immigration. My parents, growing up, were always playing dominoes on Sunday. They always got involved in talking politics, talking about business, talking about how to make people understand their role in what they needed to do in New York. And it gave me a sense of desire to be involved in government on a direct level. Because when I looked at the Watergate hearings, I didn't see anybody look like me. Not on the dais, not as an aide, not even as a porter. And I decided at that point that I was going to get into politics and public service because I wanted my community to be understood that they could get involved in government. They shouldn't be afraid of government. Government should be there for the people, and people should be able to be active and engaged in government. So I got involved in the Jimmy Carter campaign, and I got involved in every political campaign since. I got involved through the Guy United Democratic Club. I finally worked through that and became an assistant to my predecessor, Archie Spignan, who served as city council member. I kept working in the Democratic campaigns and in other campaigns. I became elected to the Community School Board. I served as president of Community School Board 29 for just up to before I got elected to the City Council. Due to term limits, the seat became open, and I decided to run for the seat because I wanted to continue my public service. Having children in school and understanding that they needed to have role models, it was important for me to continue my opportunity in public service. I came in to the City Council. I was immediately put in a leadership position in the City Council. As a majority whip in the council, I was put on this task of the Rules Committee right in the beginning, and they also, my fellow colleagues in the Queens delegation, made me the head of the Queens delegation, which gave me the autonomy and to be yelled at by all my members all the time, because what we're doing is we're advocating. We have 14 members in the delegation, and all of the members are trying to make sure that Queens is the strongest borough. And we have, as the head of the delegation, I'm in charge of the expense and capital budget for the entire borough, making sure that it's distributed fairly and evenly among all my fellow colleagues. And I've had a reputation for fairness and even-handedness, and also making sure that I have a good ear to make sure that every one of my colleagues that had a need or an issue, that it was heard, that it was respected, and that all of my other colleagues had a chance to understand what their positions were, and that all of the funds that we had in the borough would be distributed fairly. And I've worked hard to maintain a representation as a person that gets things done, not a person that is going to be first to be in the front of the cameras or the first to create hysteria. I'm about getting things done. I became known as a fixer in the city council, only in a good way, but making sure that the programs and services, that the initiatives that we had in the council would be done properly so that council members and constituents could benefit from them. When we had opportunity, when we created the Immigration Opportunities Initiative in the council, some council members tried to put all the money into Brooklyn, and I worked to, some other council members came to me and said, please fix this so that we could have an equal distribution of monies for the Immigrant Opportunities Initiative all over the city. I worked to make sure that it was fixed. I went into the Brooklyn delegation and told them that they couldn't take all the money for themselves, that they had to make sure that the money would be spread equally, and we were able to get that done. I worked on and was key as part of making sure that the Black Male Initiative for CUNY, where we created opportunities for, where we created opportunities for having a program in the CUNY colleges and all the senior colleges to make sure that minorities had an opportunity to get extra tutoring and programming were done. I worked around with groups all over this borough to make sure that they've gotten access to government, to make sure that they've had opportunities in government. I've been working to make sure that, as I've been taught, to make sure that fundamentally people have access to government. And as you know, Queens is the most diverse borough, maybe in the world, but definitely within the country, where we have over 140 different languages spoken, where we have new immigrant communities that are getting stronger and stronger every day. I've been working with every major immigrant community in the borough to give them access to government. I work early on with the Guyanese community and made sure that they had an opportunity to have a celebration at York College, and also to be understood with the police department back in 9/11, right after the issues with 9/11. I worked with the Sikh community and the Hindu community and the Muslim community as they were having problems because, you know, people with turbans were being unfairly attacked because they were walking around with turbans after 9/11. I went to all of the churches. I linked them up with the commanding officers of the precincts and made sure that they had an understanding, because the police were still learning these communities. Even though they were coming in, they did not have relationships. So I worked hard with all of it, because in downtown Jamaica, I have over 10 mosques and temples in my district. I had to make sure that they all had a familiarity and an opportunity to be serviced fairly, and that they also had an opportunity to be heard and understood by the police department. And I worked with a lot of communities. As head of the delegation, I've had the honor and the privilege to work all over the borough with different groups as they're trying to get access to government, and I'm running as borough president to try to continue that. The main thing that I would do as borough president is to make sure that all of the communities of this diverse borough are given an opportunity to have a seat at the table, to have a major voice at the table, so that they can be heard and respected. The one thing I like to say is that, you know, all New Yorkers like to argue. And I love to argue. I love a good argument. You know, I love to engage people, because only when you engage people and allow people to air their point of view or have their concern or express their point of view, even if their point of view may be totally 300 or 180 degree opposite from what you are, you have to come and bridge a gap, because at the end of the day, we all want the same things. We want strong schools. We want safe streets. We want to make sure that when you get off the bus or train at night, you can walk home safely. You want to make sure that the business community is strong. You want to make sure that your home is safe and that the trees are cut. We all want a good quality of life, no matter what our background. And as borough president, I'm going to work to make sure that Queens, which has been one of the strongest boroughs in the last few years because of our economic diversity, is our economic strength. And so I look forward to being the next borough president of Queens, to continue my legacy. I'll say one thing that Councilmember Valone said: Google me too, and you'll see that my record, you'll see what I've done, you'll see that I've worked with a fair and even hand, you'll see that I like to engage people all over this borough, and you can see that my heart is about not just public service, but making sure that people understand that government is theirs and that they should be part of government. So that's why I'm going to be your next borough president. I want to thank David for having me here this evening. You know, I would have an opportunity, love to come back and have other opportunities to engage with you on whatever specific issues. I would just say that one thing that I'd like to share with you, if you're interested in finding out how we access money on the city level, we are doing training workshops for anybody that has a nonprofit. We're starting our training workshops where we show you online. You can apply for the discretionary money online. We're starting tomorrow at the Central Library at 2 o'clock. On Monday, we're going to be at Borough Hall at room 213 at 6 o'clock. You can go on my website, LeroyComrie.com. We're having 5 other days where you can come and learn how to access money from the city council on the expense side if you're interested in doing that. Even if you want to just do it, we're doing a online presentation where we can show you all of the pratfalls and all of the pluses and minuses for getting that done. With that, I want to thank David for also creating this organization. It's not easy, as you know, to get people to come out and be here at a meeting on a Thursday night, you know, during as different things are on and different competing interests. And I just want to applaud you for having the fortitude, and you've made a decision to want to be active in your community. And there's nothing better than that. I would hope that you pass it on to other people, because the more voices we have in a community that are active, the more things get done. And there's an old adage, the squeaky wheel gets the juice, you know, and you have to make sure that you're part of that activity to make sure that your communities are well served. Thank you for listening.
So, anybody have any questions? We're going to limit it to one question per person. One. Make sure it's a question, not a statement. All right? In the front.
For environmental lovers like me, we just recently put forward or sponsored an important piece of legislation that would do a lot of good. It was pertaining to the power lines. You could talk a little bit about that.
Well, we just recently passed a piece of legislation to ask the city to do a complete study to put power lines underground. As you know, most of Manhattan, most of downtown Brooklyn, and the lower part of the Bronx, most of the power lines in the power grid are already underground. Out here in Queens, we have mostly overhead lines. There is no reason why we can't have a comprehensive study looking at making sure that we harden our infrastructure by putting them underground, not all in one shot, but in piecemeal. Now, every time there's a storm, they can take the transformers that came down in the area, as opposed to trying to put them back up above ground, put them underground. There's no reason why they can't do it in a structured manner and do it in a manner that makes sense, as opposed to trying to do it all in one comprehensive piece. But we need to start to, as now 20-year storms become 5-year storms and 2-year storms, as we start to experience hurricanes and tornadoes now, which have hit Queens over the last couple of years, we should not have to deal with power outages because we have wires that are above ground when they can be put underground, and inexpensively, very inexpensively now. They claim that it would be a cost to the consumers, but we know that these utilities are making billions of dollars per year, and they're eking out whatever expenses they are and increase utility raises to us. So we are having that study done. That study will be done within 6 to 8 months, and we'll be bringing back to you the results of that study so that we can get that work started.
Another question?
Tomorrow you said that you're having a function for not-for-profit.
Yes.
Just share that information again.
Tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Central Library on Merrick Boulevard and 89th Street, 89th Avenue. 89-11 Merrick Boulevard. We are doing a training workshop for anybody that's interested in accessing the City Council's discretionary money. I'm working with all of my members. We're doing the workshops all over the borough. We're actually going to put it up online because if you apply for money now, it's all done online. It's not done by handing in paper anymore. And we'll do a step-by-step as they showing you from the beginning to the end of the application what you need to do if you're interested in applying for money. You have to be a 501c3 nonprofit, or you have to have a conduit that's willing to be your nonprofit conduit for you to access money. And there are a few other things that you have to do to get that, but it's an opportunity for you to look at it. And we're doing it tomorrow at 2 o'clock. at the Central Library and Monday at 6 p.m. at the Queensboro Hall.
We have Bernard, then Richie, and then David. Bernard,
Thanks
guys.
for coming down. My name is Bernard Garrett. I got an organization I try to find work for construction guys, shape around the jobs. And most of these construction sites, when you try to get a job, they say they're working with a particular person from another area. It's hard for Queens guys to get work on Queens construction sites.
Right.
And it's a difficult task. Is there anything that can be done about that?
One of the things that I did when they built Citi Field as delegation head, I made sure that they promised 30% of the work would go to Queens-based businesses. And they were able to exceed that. They actually got up to 37% of the work as Queens-based businesses. One of the main things that I would do as borough president would be as a bully pulpit to make sure that people replicated that. That businesses would replicate that. Anybody that's doing work within Queens would have to hire from a pool of Queens people, and preferably within the zip code, primarily first, to make sure that there's a percentage within the zip code that's being hired, and then also second tier, then nitrate, people that live in nitrate would be able to have the first crack at jobs also, and also to make sure that that's happening. Right now, we're still pushing on a statewide level to change the opportunities to make sure that the locally employed union people can have the first crack at the job. So we're working on a state level to get that done. I was just in Albany this weekend for the Minority Caucus weekend, and we're pushing the state legislators to make that part of their state initiative. But right now, one of the main things that I would do as borough president is to make sure that anyone that's doing construction work in the city would have to have a locally based hiring program focused on the zip code that they're actually working.
Richie?
In the context of education, I think you were here at the tail end of the discussion about bad teachers, inattentive parents, and perhaps it's a distracting argument. The mayor was going to be the education mayor, and then the test results came out, and it turned out that
the mayor has never been a true education.
Right, but my
problem with the, I'm sorry, finish.
but that's not my question. That is what it is for political games. There's a figure I read in the Post about 2 months ago and Newsday a couple weeks ago that about 19% of our graduates don't require remedial courses in the community colleges, which to me tells me that even those who get our graduate diploma is not worth the paper it's printed on. What is your opinion about the worth of our current diplomas?
I agree with you that most of the children that are graduating now are not fully prepared for college life. If you talk to the high schools, the children that they're getting are not prepared for high school. They're coming in at level 1. You know, this mayor has failed two generations of children. If you look at 6-year cycles, because he's been mayor for 12 years. So imagine you started school at kindergarten, you've been totally educated or miseducated by Mayor Bloomberg. His major problem, in my view, is that he disrespects the working class. He's never respected teachers. You know, he just never respected teachers. He thinks people are interchangeable, just like with the school bus strike. He thinks people are interchangeable unless they have Harvard degrees or triple pedigrees. And, you know, and because he's never respected teachers, and he dumps on teachers every minute, he wants to blame New York teachers. It's totally different from my philosophy. I have to respect each individual person, because if I don't respect you as an individual, you're not going to treat me right. That's not how I was raised. I was raised to greet each person because I've had the experience where I've been helpful to someone and their child was a doctor or a lawyer or someone of influence that was able to turn around and help my office. You never know who you're going to encounter. I've had the experience where I helped a person that was a, one of my favorite people at City Hall is one of the ladies that does the maintenance at City Hall. And her son actually came back and donated a program in my district because I go and hug her, even when I'm standing next to other elected officials. Because if you don't treat individuals with respect, they don't want to do their job. Just bringing it back to education, if you don't give teachers the respect that they deserve for struggling, just like this young lady said, she couldn't, it's a special person to be a teacher. So if you're gonna rag on teachers and blame them for everything, you're never gonna get teachers to be fully invested. And that's the problem with education. And he's, from top to bottom, they have, my child, I have a, as I said earlier, my son's gonna be 16 in May, my daughter just graduated. They are not giving children enough engagement for them to even want to be in school. So until they change the education curriculum, until they change the whole philosophy about how they engage people and how they make the system work, we're going to have a failing education system. And this administration cannot do it. At the bus strike hearing, if you look at the tape, I asked Dennis Walcott, when do you want to ever respect people that are doing their job? When do you want to respect seniority? Because especially when you're taking small children to school, seniority counts. But they want to get rid of seniority because they want to save money. When they already messed up because they couldn't do the, remember they tried to redo the bus routes a couple of years ago? That was a fundamental disaster because you have people that are not engaged in the system, people working from the top down. I hope that whoever the next mayor is will relook at how they do education and how they teach, because the whole system from top to bottom is wrong. Remember, most kids nowadays are very technically astute by the time they get to the first grade. And if they're not being totally engaged, they're washing out by the third or fourth grade. And the way this curriculum is across the board is hurting our children. It's not helping our children. And it needs to be fundamentally changed. It's more than mayoral control. There's a whole philosophy that they have wrong why our education system is failing.
Next question from David.
Councilman, I'm very impressed with what you said so far, with the 60s, 70s. And my question is this. Let me give you a little background on me. We had friends of mine that back then when people realized that the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. Now, you said 1974. Now, think about it. Now, most people don't even realize this. But here's my point. Here's my question to you. What's your proudest, and my background is this. I have friends of mine who are white, with long hair, were thrown into the trunks of cars in Alabama and Mississippi because we were hippies going down there and trying to infiltrate the crowd. It's not black, white, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, right? That was the element there. Here's my question to you. What's your proudest achievement as far as civil rights goes? And how do you think it is shaped? I want to understand you as a person, because the rest of the stuff is nonsense.
Right.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, I want to see who you are as a person. That's what we're because no offense, but half these political figures, they say one thing, they do the other.
Right.
I want to see who you are as a person. Then I'll know how you're gonna vote. What's your proudest civil rights achievement?
One question, Dave, one question.
It is this way. Would you let me finish?
If by proxy, I've given
Oh,
you
listen,
mine.
this is like the 1950s, and you're not Joseph
Okay.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Your proudest achievement
Right.
in civil rights,
Right.
and how do you think it's changed from, let's say,
That's
60s,
two
70s,
questions.
and now? Oh,
I give
part
them
B.
mine.
Go ahead. Learn the law, my man.
I'm gonna. I had a couple of civil rights moments in the city council. One was
Not city council, back in the 60s, 70s, with the movement.
Let him answer the
oh,
question.
with them.
No,
Oh,
not the
okay.
council.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant.
No, I'm saying, you know,
I've been
Martin
elected
Luther
in the council.
King, all that other stuff.
Oh, you mean as far as within the civil rights
As
movement?
as far as you're volunteering with the movement.
When I did the Million Man March. So,
And what was that?
I participated in the Million Man March, but that was in 2003 because that was a reigniting of the need to make sure that our communities got back to helping each other. You know, because there's been a separation, and you know, I tell people today, you know, the president has asked us to come to D.C. to help him because he is right now in need of us to go down to D.C. and speak on bills, speak on issues en masse to help him with his agenda. If we don't go back to being activists like they were in the 60s, he's going to lose his agenda. He needs to make sure that with not just the gun bill, but on every bill that we push to make sure that we're represented and it's not just the regular lobbyists down down in D.C. So when I went to the Million Man March with, I went down with a group from a church that had restarted an organization of men that wanted to go back in their communities, and they're still active now. We're going to a meeting next week. because they wanted to reorganize and stand up as men and take positions back in their communities to help people. Because we're losing our generation. So that was my proudest civil rights movement is growing up. Since I've been in the council, I've had 2 opportunities to help people, and I'm going to spin it on you. I helped the motorcycle bikers because there was a piece of legislation that was going to kill something that they needed desperately to maintain themselves as motorcycle riders, and they came to City Hall and they didn't think they had a voice, and they came to me, and I was able to convince them to come to City Hall en masse because they were actually, now can you imagine this? You got motorcycle riders, and if you look at them, they look like they were afraid to come to City Hall to engage government. And I said, you guys come down here, you know, because actually motorcycle riders are police officers, they're corrections officers, they're bus drivers, they're mostly civil service working people. But they were afraid of government because they were afraid that if they came down in their colors, they wouldn't be respected. I was like, you guys come down in your colors. So we had 700 bikers descend on City Hall at a stated meeting. Scared the shit out. I'm scared of
No way, we'll bleep it out the video.
Yeah, you know, but it scared. The speaker's office came running to me because, you know, by this time I had them set up. They were ready. They knew what to do. They knew what members they had to go. They descended on the members that they needed to talk to. And I'm in my office across the street. The speaker's office called me, Comrie, we need you over here. These bikers will not leave until you tell them to leave. So I took my time. 45 minutes later, I went over there because I wanted to make sure that there was an impact because their rights were being violated. Their opportunities to be bikers were being violated. It was just unfair. And I've had other moments like that where I've been able to convince people that this is your government. Don't be afraid of it. So that's one of the proudest things that I've done, along with helping, you know, as I said earlier, working with the Sikh and Hindu community after 9/11. I got a lot of gratification from working with them, just getting them access and letting the police know that these were communities that they had to deal with. So I enjoy what I do because you get an opportunity to get people to, once you turn a light on somebody's and let them know that they can do this, that they shouldn't be afraid to speak up, that they shouldn't be afraid to engage government, that they shouldn't be afraid to fight for what they want. You know, it's a beautiful thing seeing the light go on in somebody's eyes. And I want to be borough president to make sure that every Queens resident has an opportunity to engage government and be unafraid of government. And working as the borough president will be an opportunity for me to make sure that that happens for the entire borough. So, thank you. I'll take one more question.
All right, one more question. I think John, out of all fairness, did raise his hand. I'm sorry, Bill. John did raise his hand before you. Okay, John.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to bring it back to when you were talking about education. I need your opinion of the No Child Left Behind Act that the Bush has created. I feel like the students are being more primed on learning how to take answers on a test rather than learning problem solving.
Right.
What could we do in the city that, because 7 states have opted out on it because of Obama. Obama said, all right, we'll relieve you from that, and it shows that students are prospering. But here in New York City, they didn't say, oh, no way, let's just take the test. And they're not know anything about problem solving, so they're not primed for college.
Well, I hope that the next mayor opts out of the No Child Left Behind. Actually, the governor as well opts out of the No Child Left Behind. It only forces people to teach to the test. It dumbs down the curriculum. It forces the teachers to not be creative. You know, the teachers are now only responding to emails and to, you know, ideas that are coming from think tanks, and it's really messed up the entire given flow. Education should be about the free flow of discourse that teaches creativity to enlighten a child's mind. The No Child Left Behind program has only created robotic curriculums and robotic teachers, and as you see, disengaged students. So I would hope that we get rid of it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I would love to come back next month and re-engage, but I have newspaper that started in my community. It's their first anniversary. If I don't get over there, they're gonna write me up all negatively for the rest of the year. I can't afford that, so while I would love to stay and engage with you, I have to come back another evening. Thank you very much.